comes to any form of media, it's always safe to assume that if something is successful, then more is basically guaranteed. The purpose of new entries are to build off of what their predecessors laid out and provide a fresh and deeper experience, and Fatal Fury 3 is no exception to that rule. The last 3 entries in the series had pretty smooth transitions between them with no drastic changes, but Fatal Fury 3 did a long jump when it came to upgrading. The quality of sprites and their animations have improved, the stages are better looking and more detailed, and the music sounds way better now, just to name a few obvious changes. Overall, the graphics got a really nice upgrade in this game, but looks aren't everything. Looking into how the game itself works, Fatal Fury 3 decided to shake up the lane system. The game upgrades the lane system from 2 to 3, with the newest lane being the foreground lane, helping the game achieve more of a pseudo 3D effect. Swapping to the foreground can be done with an A plus B button combination, and a B plus C combination for the background. Once you're in one of the outer lanes, you can hit your opponent with a quick attack using A or B, or a strong attack with C or D. Back in the older games, both players were able to swap to the same lane, but that got scrapped in Fatal Fury 3 in favor of being able to counter your opponent's lane swap. The counter hit input will depend on which lane your opponent is in and how far they are, so it's a matter of paying attention and reacting. If you end up knocking out your opponent with a counter hit or a lane attack, then it will send them flying depending on the direction. Honestly, I prefer how lanes were restructured in this game compared to the previous titles. Lane swaps felt slower but more free in the previous games, and here it feels more intimate and skillful since you can dodge and counter quicker. I could get away with mindlessly swapping lanes in the past, but in this game it felt like I had to get a grip on them, otherwise I'd be at a disadvantage. Going more into this game's offense, Fatal Fury 3 introduces the combination arts system. In order to use combination arts, you need to input a sequence of buttons like you would do for an auto combo in games like Dragon Ball FighterZ. Most sequences are pretty straightforward, like the universal CCC combo, but a few sequences switch things up by requiring a directional input like Terry's forward CCCD combo. It's a pretty basic and beginner-friendly system, but it's effective. It contrasts with the combo system introduced in Fatal Fury Special that's more about canceling moves. Finally, the last new offensive mechanic is an upgrade to desperation moves. They work the same as in Fatal Fury 2, except it's now limited to only 1 per round. Unlike the other new mechanics, this one is actually hidden. In order to use the hidden desperation moves, you need to hop into a game and hit all 4 buttons as soon as you see go. If you did it right, then your name should turn green, and now you have access to hidden desperation moves. The input method is a bit harder than the regular desperation moves, but I mean the cool visuals and the extra power make up for it, man. The last new mechanic is a defensive one, that being air blocking. It's pretty self-explanatory and nothing too revolutionary since this was seen before in 1994's Darkstalkers 1, but it's still a mechanic I'll always appreciate. Hey there, hi, Editor Ramen here, and I actually forgot to add 2 mechanics to the script because I have a monkey brain. The first one is passing sway, the actual last lane mechanic. It works as an even faster dodge for regular attacks, and you input it with down forward. The other mechanic is short hopping, which is as self-explanatory as air blocking. Now back to the video. Now, you can't have a new fighting game without changes to the roster. The roster of this game is 13, which is a downgrade from the 15 fighters in Fatal Fury Special, but the game makes up for it through the character design. As you'd expect by now, we have our staple characters Terry, Andy, Joe, Mai, and Geese. Their designs get slightly tweaked around with changes ranging from the color of Joe's shorts to making Mai less revealing. There's even some moveset changes like Terry's rising tackle replaced in favor of power dunk. Besides our 5 returning characters, the game features the debuts of 8 newcomers. First up is Blue Mary, a freelance agent who's besties with Terry. Her fighting style is combat sambo, going hand in hand with her fetish for joint cracking. This girl is freaky. Bob Wilson's a pretty cheerful and happy guy who's a student of Richard Mayer. He was recognized by Richard in the first place due to his capoeira style, escalating in Richard taking Bob under his wing to become a co-manager of Pow Pow Cafe 2. Hanfu is a detective from Hong Kong who's always on the tail of criminals. Despite working a serious job, he can also be a goofball. His fighting style is a mix of aerial kung fu and an expertise of nunchucks, making for a pretty cool character visually. This dude's AI drove me crazy, and for that, I'm his biggest hater. Next is Sokaku, a monk who's the heir to a Buddhist temple that he leads. This same clan has been a rival to the Shiranui clan for years. His fighting style is a mix of bojutsu and magic, making him one of the coolest newcomers in my opinion. Franco Bash is a retired heavyweight champion who's now a mechanic at Southtown Airport. He's a pretty big family guy who's loud, wild, and loves beer. His fighting style is kickboxing, and he's surprisingly fast for how big he is. Then again, this is a video game. Things are bound to be unrealistic. Moving into boss territory, one of the antagonists in this game is Ryuji Yamazaki, a psychopathic and sadistic gangster. Yamazaki doesn't have a specific fighting style, as he's primarily a dirty fighter who relies on cheap and dirty tactics. Out of the three main villains in this game, I think Yamazaki's the best. Speaking of the other two villains though, there's Jin Chonrei and Jin Chonshu, the guardians of the three sacred scrolls. Chonrei is more on-site and brutal, while Chonshu is more stubborn and sarcastic. Their shared fighting style is the fictional Teoken, which heavily uses chi. Overall, the cast of characters in this game are a pretty wacky bunch. There's some characters I prefer over the rest, but I think they're all solid. As you'd be right in assuming, Fatal Fury 3 didn't come out without a story. Our story begins after the events of Fatal Fury 2, where we see that Geese Howard is still kicking after surviving his fall thanks to his Totem of Undying. Geese has been laying low and recovering with the help of the Phoenix Scroll, one of the three sacred scrolls. To sum up the sacred Jin scrolls, they originated during the Qing dynasty in China during Qing Shi Huang's rule, and they hold special powers. They're all somehow in Southtown at the moment, which attracts Jin Chonshu and Jin Chonrei, who work from the shadows while Yamazaki runs around collecting the scrolls for them. Dude, at this point, what hasn't happened in Southtown? So, the scroll business combined with the geese being a live thing winds up with Terry and the gang getting involved, and they begin going around Southtown hunting for the scrolls before they fall into the wrong hands. I'm gonna be real, I really dig the direction the story goes in for this title, rather than being another tournament leading up to the evil mastermind. I'm not gonna go too much into depth with this story because ultimately this isn't a lore video, but if you want to learn more about Fatal Fury 3's story, then I recommend checking out this video by John Sex. Lastly, I wanted to give a spotlight to the arcade mode. Fatal Fury 3's arcade mode introduces the battle rank system that grades you depending on how well you do. The higher that you rank and the higher that you score will then decide the final boss of the game. Let's put it this way, if you absolutely suck at the game, then the final boss is Yamazaki. If you are average, like I was, then the game will end at Jin Chonshu. If you're really good at the game, then the final boss is Jin Chonrei. In the end, Fatal Fury 3 is a great step up from the previous games, and overall, a fun fighting game. It's no Mona Lisa, of course, and I have some issues like with the AI, but the game is still overall really enjoyable. I might just have a skill issue. I even found the story to be enjoyable compared to the previous games due to the stakes of the scrolls potentially falling into the hands of the wrong people, and they did. But you know, playing this game has taught me a very important lesson that should be rubbed into the minds of today's youth. Mine sucks. Blue Mary is better. With that said, I've been Mystic Ramen, and keep on grinding.